We have a situation where the state of Minnesota has halted progress of two of Enbridge's major transmission lines. One is one that's in existence, that's line 9. I'm sorry, line 3. And they're asking to replace that line. Generally, when you think of a replacement, you think that you pull the old piece out of the ditch and you put the new piece in. What they're planning to do is to put a much larger replacement in that'll flow much more oil. That line has been stopped by the environmental impact statement, environmental impact review system by the Minnesota DNR. Along with that line, the Sandpiper line has also been stopped. The line 3 comes from the Athabasca region of Alberta. The Sandpiper line originates in the Bakken oil field in North Dakota. Together, both of these lines will end up going to the Enbridge facility in Superior. From there, it's going to be trucked down the 61 corridor, which involves 4 pipelines currently. The 61 corridor has Pipeline 61, which is currently North America's largest petroleum transportation line. It's 42 inches in diameter. It started pumping oil in 2008. At that point in time, it pumped it transferred about 400,000 barrels per day. It has undergone a ramp up in the last 3 years, an addition of pumping stations along the way. Additional horsepower in all the pumping stations to enable it to flow a grand total of 1.2 million barrels per day. The line 61 flows tar sands oil. It's not friendly to our environment. Tar sands oil contains at least 18% more carbon than general petroleum that you'll find, say, coming out of Venezuela. Pipeline 61 has a side-by line that is known as line 13. Line 13 carries a material that they call diluent. It is used to dilute tar sands petroleum so that it can be pushed through the line. Once the tar sands gets to its destination, this diluent is pulled out and sent back up line 13 to be reused in the oil fields. The diluent itself is comprised of what they call upper end distillates, meaning they're part of the distillation column of petroleum. Stuff like benzene, hexane, xylene, 13 leans. And all of these leans are carcinogenic creatures. When they are released in a leak, they effervesce. They disappear into the air. If you're unlucky enough to be breathing that stuff, you'll find that you're more likely to find yourself with cancer than beforehand. As I said, the initial flow of line 61 was 400,000 barrels. At 1.2 million barrels per day, it outdoes the proposed KXL by over 25%. KXL was going to be 887,000 barrels per day. Now, you add one more element into the mix, and that's what we're here to talk about today as far as I'm concerned, and that's the proposed line 66. That is a twin. It is to be another 42-inch transmission line to run side by side with 61. If you extrapolate from 61's capabilities, you come up with 2.4 million barrels per day of tar sands oil. That stuff ends, Enbridge will tell you that it ends in Chicago, and I'll tell you that it ends down on the Gulf Coast. There's a series of lines, and I can show you through graphics that Enbridge himself has published, that show numerous lines that are connected in different places, Cushing, Oklahoma being one of them. If line 66 goes through, it is rumored that it is going to include a 200-foot right-of-way. The current right-of-way for line 61 is about 80 feet. So you're looking at almost 300 feet of right-of-way. If you look at at Google Map, and you take, you can see the actual path of the pipeline through the state of Wisconsin. And the rumored side for the placement of Line 66 is on the north and the west side. It runs southeast, so typically on the left side of the line as you look north. That is going to go through a lot of private property, and I'm talking about eminent domain, and that's what I'm here to talk about, and I'm here to, hopefully that's what Winona LaDuke is going to be talking about today, to get landowners energized to see if we can't launch a class action suit to do something about this thing. To see to it, eminent domain was originally established for public service utilities to have a way to move oil, primarily electricity, not so much oil and gas. I misspoke there. And it was a matter of being a thing for the public good. I question a foreign company that is bringing this oil through our country, to a destination that is an export destination, what good it is doing for the public of America. Wisconsin has had several major spills, nothing like the Kalamazoo spill, but one of those spills was in Sawyer County, and it amounted to over 200,000 gallons. The spill was not a spill, it was a puncture. The construction company was working on the line and they poked a hole in the line with a backhoe. It was the 2nd of February in 2007 that it happened. 20 degrees below zero. You can imagine at that point in time they didn't have isolation valves on that line. So from the discharge point in Superior to the leak in Sawyer County, you had that whole line filled with that volume of oil with no way to shut it off. It continued to come for several days. It polluted a Class 1 trout stream. They were able to retrieve about 60% of that 200,000 gallons. They took over 5,000 metric tons of sand away and put them through an asphalt plant to get rid of them. There is mitigation piping in the ground at that site now. We viewed that. We came upon the landowner that had property that was inundated. He said it was a gusher. It wasn't a leak, it was a gusher. You don't talk about leaks as in non-pressurized. He was ecstatic that we happened to, it was just by chance that we ran into him. We were walking the line and he came out of the driveway and he said, "What are you guys doing?" And we said, "Well, we're doing an awareness walk for the Enbridge pipeline." "Oh, well, those dirty characters, they ruined me." He said, I'm from Chicago. I plan to come up here. I bought this property up here and my wife and I were going to move here. And because of what's happened, we haven't been able to move. I've gone bankrupt. I've had, the guy was a nutcase. I mean, I'm not trying to be condescending toward him, but he went from one emotional extreme to another in the course of a half-an-hour conversation. He was...
Because it drove him crazy.
Well, literally.
Yeah.
What were his interactions with Enbridge?
Futile. He was unable to get any cooperation from them at all. He found Enbridge people out on his property at 2 o'clock in the morning without permission. "What are you doing here?" "Well, we're surveying at 2 o'clock in the morning, surveying." Don't question that, but basically he had,
More garbage.
I don't remember this well enough to try to tell it on camera, but he had a run-in with one of the Enbridge representatives that could have been volatile. It wasn't because he was smart enough not to be, but so be it. It was a situation, again, I don't remember enough of it to recount the whole thing, but he turned it around. He was accosted in town by somebody that was made to work on his property during the 4th of July weekend because they had inundated his driveway. They had to put a new driveway in for him. and these guys got drunk in the town, and they came out and didn't rough him up, but they
verbally abused
him badly. And the Enbridge representative came to his property a few days later, and he turned the tables. And he went after the guy and pimped him about being a fat man and about how he was going to get across the ditch, and all the same sorts of innuendos that the crew members had poked at him. And he says, you know what, your people did this to me in public in front of a town celebration on the 4th of July. And now how do you think you feel because I'm doing it back to you? You better feel badly. That was the sort of vehemence, the vitriol that this man had. It's just unbelievable. I had a reason to interview the people that own the farm down in Adams County, where I live, where the Grand Marsh spill took place. Well, Bruce and I were partners before it was hooked up with Sacred Water. I called these people and said, my name is John Andresi, and I'm interested in what's going on with the Enbridge pipeline, and I'd like to come down and interview you. I promise that I won't use your names. I just want to get your take on what your experience was when their farmhouse got covered by oil when the line blew down there. And the guy wasn't abusive, but he wasn't very happy that, how'd you get my number? And I said, well, I just found it. And he said, I don't want to talk to you, and I don't want you to come here. Enbridge has a habit of settling with people and issuing gag orders.